Hello and welcome to the I Can Do podcast with Benjamin Lee. We're here to talk about tips and strategies to have an I Can Do mindset. Life is what you put into it. Get the most you can. Here's your host, Benjamin Lee.
All right, it is Monday, which means we're talking about money. It is Money Mondays. And so today I had an idea. We've been going through the book of Proverbs. I want to give you another chapter. And this episode is called Wisdom, Wealth, and Women. And I'm saying that because this is what we see in chapter 11 of Proverbs. What I want to do, I want to read the entire chapter, just make some quick thoughts that will help you and me when it comes to our finances and some additional things as well. So this is primarily geared towards our thought process, our money, our stewardship. And I want you to think about this as well, that these Proverbs that we have, so many of them came from King Solomon, the wisest man ever to live, one who had more wealth than anyone at that time, and for so many other people throughout the ages. So as we think about this wisdom that we're getting ready to hear, these are inspired words. It would do us very well to pay close attention. There are a lot of different words of wisdom that we can make immediate application. All right, so let's read. Proverbs chapter 11, verse number 1. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So he's already talked about abominations, I believe, going back to previous chapters, I think chapter 6. Another abomination in the sight of God is false scales. He wants us to be honest. He wants us to have integrity when it comes to our money. Just weight is his delight. For us today in 2025, think about our taxes, think about our work expenses, whatever the case may be. We want to do it the right way. That's how we will be successful in the eyes of God and with our finances. Verse 2, when pride comes, then comes dishonor, but with the humble is wisdom. Verse 3, the integrity of the upright will guide them, but the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. We want to follow the straight and narrow path, the path that God gives us in his word. Verse 4, riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. While a lot of people want to be rich, a lot of people from a very young age, they've had this desire to be rich. No, it's not necessarily sinful to be rich. There are plenty of people in the Bible who were rich, but we need to guard against every form of greed. And here's a bigger principle. You ready? Verse 4, just because we have money, it's not going to protect us from everything. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath. We want to do what's right in the sight of God. The righteousness, verse 5, of the blameless will smooth his way, but the wicked will fall by his own wickedness. Verse 6, the righteousness of the upright will deliver them, but the treacherous will be caught by their own greed. We've already talked about avoiding being greedy. There's another word of wisdom and a warning for us not to go down the path of greed. Verse 7, when a wicked man dies, his expectation will perish, and the hope of strong men perishes. Verse 8, the righteous is delivered from trouble, but the wicked takes his place. Verse 9, with his mouth the godless man destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge the righteous will be delivered. He's going to talk a lot about gossip, the power of words, that we need to be careful in our everyday conversations. Don't gossip. That will tear down relationships and businesses for that matter, and homes. Verse 10, when it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is joyful shouting. Verse 11, by the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked, it is torn down. Verse 12, he who despises his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding keeps silent. Be careful with your words. Verse 13, he who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy conceals a matter. Be careful again with our words and avoid gossip. Verse 14, where there is no guidance, the people fall, but in abundance of counselors, there is victory. Now, I like that in verse 14. Think about that. When it comes to finances, there is wisdom having like what's called a board of directors. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, that book that I read years ago, which really helped me to make some decisions about careers. The rich dad had a board of directors, people that he could go to, advisors that he could go to. He surrounded himself with people who were smarter than him, where there's great wisdom when it comes to our finances, with our budgeting, with investing. We need to have trustworthy advisors, an abundance of them. Now, we don't need a ton of people, but people who have been down a path that maybe we're just starting. There's great wisdom to learn and live from them, not to live and learn the hard way. So think about who could you align yourself with, who could become a mentor when it comes to your money. Maybe you need help with budgeting. Maybe you need help with trying to figure out, okay, a career trajectory, whatever the case may be. There's great wisdom with that. All right, verse 15. He who is a guarantor for a stranger will surely suffer for it, but he who hates being a guarantor is secure. So we've already talked about this. This goes back to Proverbs chapter 6. Be careful who you strike hands with, who you get in a deal with. It's kind of like the idea of like a cosign or co-signing for someone. If you co-sign for someone, you put your name on that document. If they default, if they do not follow through or pay, guess who's on the hook to pay? Bingo, you and me, all right? So be very careful with being a guarantor. He specifically says he will surely suffer for it, but he who hates being a guarantor is secure. There are some things that we should, I think, get to the point of hating when it comes to certain decisions, not people, but putting ourselves in situations that will hurt us long term. So be very careful with the loans, with the debt. Some things we just need to hate. No, I don't want to do that. Let's see if there's another option for us to do. So there's a great piece of wisdom when it comes to our money. So what are we seeing so far? We're seeing a lot. Riches can't protect us from everything. God wants integrity when it comes to our finances. Be very careful who you say yes involving a loan or co-signing. Now he talks about women in verse 16. A gracious woman attains honor, and ruthless men attain riches. I think we see that with men, don't we? That a lot of men who are just evil, they seem like they get rich. They seem like they always get ahead. There's another kind of woman that women should strive to be, a gracious woman who attains honor, one who has integrity, one who has character. And he's going to talk about another kind of woman who's very beautiful later on in the chapter, but one who is lacking something very important. Verse 17, the merciful man does himself good, but the cruel man does himself harm. Verse 18, the wicked earns deceptive wages. Here we go again with the wicked. But he who sows righteousness gets a true reward. However, we earn money through labor, inheritance, working hard, investing. We want to do it the right way, not the wrong way, not through deception, not through lies, not through cheating or scams. It just won't work out long term. Verse 19, he who is steadfast in righteousness will attain to life, and he who pursues evil will bring about his own death. Verse 20, the perverse in heart are an abomination to the Lord. So two abominations, but the blameless in their walk are his delight. Verse 21, assuredly the evil man will not go unpunished, but the descendants of the righteous will be delivered. Verse 22, as a ring of gold in a swine's snout. So picture this imagery, a pig with a gold ring in its nose. Well, that pig does not appreciate that gold. It does not understand the value. He says, as a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a beautiful woman who lacks discretion. Discretion is this idea of taste, of common sense, of awareness. So much is done and said about beautiful women and handsome men today in our society. But just because a person is beautiful, be very careful with what you do. I think about my son, I hope he gets married one day, but he's got to look at more than just the outward appearance of that woman that he marries. She may be beautiful, but if she lacks discretion, wisdom, the fear of God, well, that's not the woman for him. Think about that today. This is a great example of what we want to teach our young women, right? Beauty is great. A lot of beautiful women in the Bible, Abigail, Sarah, others, right? But it's not everything. What's more important are values, character, common sense, integrity. All of that goes a long way. Verse 23. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. Verse 24. There's one who scatters and yet increases all the more. I like that. A person who is generous, a person who gives, and somehow they seem to get more and more. They bless other people. And there is one who withholds what is justly due, and yet it results only in want. Isn't that interesting? We can have our fist clenched. I'm going to hold on to everything, although everything belongs to God anyway. The earth and everything in it are His. I believe that's what Psalm 24 and verse number 1 teaches us. In Psalm 24 and verse number 1, the earth is the Lord's and all it contains, the world and those who dwell in it. The one who is generous seems to increase anymore. It's more blessed to give than to receive. We need to be generous with what God has blessed us with. Verse 25, the generous man will be prosperous, and he who waters will himself be watered. So generosity with our money. When we die, we can't take our money with us. We can share it with others. We can bless others. We can provide for our families. The Bible gives us all the details we need when it comes to our money. Verse 26, he who withholds grain, the people will curse him. So notice the contrast. But blessing will be on the head of him who sells it. So again, the idea of being generous. Verse 27, he who diligently seeks good seeks favor, but he who seeks evil, evil will come to him. He who trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like the green leaf. Let me read that again. Just got a cup of coffee. He who trusts in his riches will fall. Don't trust in your money because it can be gone in an instant. Who was that guy? Bernie Madoff? I can't remember if that was the guy who had the big pyramid scheme years ago. Everything on paper looked good, but it was not even there. The economy can tank, tariffs, stock market can crash. We cannot trust in our riches. We always have to trust in God. Proverbs 3 and verse number 5 and 6. Verse 29, he who troubles his own house will inherit wind, and the foolish will be servant to the wise-hearted. We should be careful not to trouble our house when it comes to financial decisions. We can make matters really worse in our homes with our decisions. We need to listen to what God has to say. We need to learn and live. Verse 30, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who is wise wins souls. If the righteous will be rewarded in the earth, how much more the wicked and the sinner? Wisdom, wealth, and women are all found in Proverbs chapter 11. Honesty, character, integrity, trust, generosity, not withholding. So many great lessons when it comes to our money. So think about your money, and I'll think about mine. In our budget, do we have room in there to be generous, to give, to assist others? Maybe it's the widows, maybe it's orphans, maybe it's those who are in need, giving to support the local work of a congregation. The Bible gives us the wisdom that we need when it comes to being wise with our money. We'll keep on talking about this. I'm going to be sharing with you some more thoughts. Not every thought will come directly from the scriptures, but I wanted to share this one particularly today as I read this with my wife and as I just learned so much about wisdom and about wealth and about women and about our words. Let's learn and live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, Share these podcasts. Mondays are Money Mondays. Wednesday is Wednesday's Word. You're going to get a message from God's Word. Fridays will be Friday's Focus, where we will have some new guests on the show, or I will be going through some book that I have read that I believe will be a great benefit to you. Go to benjaminlee.blog, sign up for my newsletter. Take care, and God bless.